remember when I first moved to Seattle. My sister and I had lived in Arizona our whole lives and were both born in Ohio. And we lived in a rented apartment for $700 a month. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a swimming pool. In 2004. And I'd go to Starbucks, I'd take my journal, my pen, and drink mochas iced, and sit and write poems and words and letters and sentences. I had barely completed college. And I was diagnosed with chordoma in 2012. Within those 8 years, I went to community college. I went to Western Washington University, completing a degree in English literature and studying film with an Iranian professor named Kaveh Askari. I learned about Iranian film, culture. I went to a film festival with students from Harvard and Stanford. A brilliant artist from Tennessee who made glitch theory. I sat with feminists and drank wine and occasionally a small amount of marijuana. We had dinners. I had a roommate who was how he described bisexual, who dated men and had lots of women friends. And most of all, I remember a poem I once wrote called Hitler's Last Kiss, speaking about methamphetamine crack I had learned was made by Nazis. And had taken over parts of Arizona, causing explosions in labs and toxicity and radioactive material for those who had to clean up the mess. And I thought, besides some of those scientists who work for NASA and never got prosecuted for their crimes, and the worst of all, a Holocaust, were horrible. Until I studied and learned about psychology and psychiatry and behavior and B.F. Skinner and learning machines and Harvard and experimental practices with animals and observation, control, limits and restrictions used on other humans. And at the beginning, I thought I was incorrect and thinking too much of film and Planet of the Apes. But unfortunately, after psychology and psychiatry and learning about mind from Tibetan Buddhist shamans, elders, black belt martial artists, and writers about verbal judo and spirituality, traditions, I began to learn about neuroscience and neurology. I read books about food with Michael Pollan talking about an omnivore diet and psychedelic mushrooms. Bioethicists talking about eating meat. With philosophy and theory included in their mathematical equations about what's good and what's bad, and those who are evil, who eat a cow and enjoy a steak. And finally, I no longer remember Hitler's last kiss and NASA scientists who were Nazis as the worst fascists ever gave planet Earth. When they made psychology and psychiatry and experiments on Jews. Learning and researching and building a foundation for doctors and nurses and practitioners and professionals and doctors in colleges called professors and teachers and instructors, social workers and counselors and mental health landlords, to do what humans can do to monkeys and rats, to one another, to have laws and orders, emotions, and calm and relaxation from prescription medications and drugs. Hitler never planned to die from suicide and probably planned to live forever with the science that he made and engineered. He would smile now, proudly, saluting his swastika and proclaiming Freud and Jung were his disciples. Medicine and health are his gift to a world he would call a civilization. now. There's no coincidence methamphetamine use in mental health happens frequently. The two went together when Hitler gave his soldiers the substance and chemical and watched what they did, where they went, listened and saw what they said. And the most horrible outcome, these effects on time, minutes and seconds and hours, used for stimulation, and by psychiatrists and those who practice a method of control. Rewarding patients and clients they treat and keep safe and secure in locked up rooms, in houses, hospital rooms, and beds. Eating salty foods and blankly staring at walls, sedated. And confused. Methamphetamine, in other words, Hitler used in the beginning of psychology to make sure a system designed and implemented for control and restriction, and most of all, decided limits for problem solving and deciding with freedom, causing anarchy. Now, property destruction, hunger and suffering, economic devastation, with those who are addicted, eventually in need of psychiatric and psychological assistance, hospitalization, treatment. Making corporations millions from prescription drugs. Doctors famous for describing an emotion in a manual about a disorder they've observed in an experiment, in a lab, in a college classroom. With little or no food, often available for these humans, other than outdated, donated energy items.